This report ACOSS has released today has shown demand for emergency relief services has skyrocketed in recent weeks.
Yeah, so Kieran, as we would probably have expected, here we are, we've got over 1 million people in lockdown areas, many children in their care, many on now poverty level social security payments. Of course, JobSeeker got cut back, right back down to $44 per day. Many of those people have lost paid work, low paid casual work, and they're not eligible this time for disaster payments. And so what we've seen is this dramatic spike, in many cases doubling or tripling of the level of seeking of financial assistance, emergency relief, international students coming for food hampers from foodbank. As we would have expected, it is a grim picture of people trying to make ends meet. That's why we're saying to the government, you have to move urgently to extend disaster payments to everybody in these lockdown areas, including people on those poverty level social security payments, so that if you're a single person, for example, in private rental, you've got at least $600 per week. That is just above the poverty line, Kieran, and it's urgent now. And we are just saying to the premiers and the chief ministers, you've got to move. Last year it was a very different set of economic supports, as you know, and that is why overwhelmingly people came through it financially okay. Not great, but okay. But this time round, the government has done too little, and they've tried to save money, we think, excluding people on the very lowest incomes, and that really needs to be fixed and urgently.
So, Cass, one of the problems you're pointing out here is it's not just those who are losing more than 20 hours a week, it's those who are on JobSeeker who might supplement JobSeeker with some part-time work. They've lost that now, so they are struggling as well.
Well, look, at any point in time, somebody on social security, overwhelmingly women, one in 3 women in part-time paid work, and they're using social security to top up that paid work, you're able to continue to get JobSeeker, just a few dollars, up to earning $600 per week. Now, that is about, as I say, just above the poverty line if you're a single person with rental costs. You can't keep a roof over your head. That's the really alarming picture of the voices from people in the lockdowns is they're really frightened about being unable to pay their rent because they are back down on these very low poverty level social security payments. JobSeeker $315 per week, and if you're a young person, Kieran, that's just $256 per week. And many students, of course, were in hospitality and retail. They're the stories of people saying, that was my food money. That's what paid for my food, and that is gone. None of them have been eligible for these disaster payments. So we've got a 2-tier system, and the people who are receiving the $600 per week, it's not a lot. And as you know, we've got the Business Council out there saying, oh, well, we need to increase it to $750. But they're going to be talking about people on Social Security on $315 per week because, boy, if you can't live on $600 per week, you certainly can't live on $315. And we shouldn't have these 2-tier arrangements in place because, of course, if you're already on Social Security, it means you've got very little behind you as well. And again, Kieran, I want to highlight how gendered this is. 1 in 3 women going into these latest lockdowns, the data was showing, had virtually run everything down that they had behind them. This is not the same as last year. For people on low and modest incomes, they've accumulated debt. They spent their bit of super. They do not have the padding. Yeah. People on higher incomes do, as you know. And that's why we're so bitterly disappointed about those stage 3 tax cuts, Kieran. I mark my words.
And if this lockdown continues, then obviously the point that you're making becomes even more pertinent with a lockdown that goes for several, well, we hope it's not several months, but certainly it looks like it'll be several weeks at the moment, Cass Goldie. But on those tax cuts, the Labor position, I know that you're not a politician. It's not. But from a political prism, I can see why if they've fought it at 2 elections, they've shelved those 2 particular policies. You're not happy with it, but can you see the argument from Labor that they want to have a battle elsewhere?
You know, Kieran, you might recall earlier this week, Grattan published a report where they looked back at our record of prosecuting good policy even when it was, in quotes, unpopular. And that what they highlighted was back in those days when politicians used to lead and prosecute the case because the reform was the reform that the country needed. This time round today we're going, well, this is a time for the community to lead, because there is absolutely no justification for those stage 3 tax cuts. What are they going to do? They're going to give more money, $180 per week, to people who've got jobs earning $200,000 plus per year, overwhelmingly going to higher income men who've already got jobs. Ask any of them whether they need another $180 per week, and they, if they're honest, they will say, I do not, which will be very different to if you're asking a low-income parent whose child is in poverty, where she is not feeding herself because she is trying to feed her children at the same time as homeschooling. What about the aged care workers, overwhelmingly low-paid women who are desperately trying to get more resources in there so that they can get around to do their rounds and look after everybody's parents in aged care? So this is one of those times where we're going to say to the community, you need to lead the debate.
Okay.
We need to collect the revenue so that we can fund essential services that we desperately need, and we can have an adequate social safety net so that every person and every child is at least able to house themselves and feed themselves, Kieran. These are the decisions, these are the choices politicians are making. It'll be our decision about what kind of politician and what kind of policy we say we want. So I'm just saying to people on high incomes who are going to get their $180 per week today, say, I don't want it. Please make sure that the young children are fed, that the people in lockdown areas have enough. They are the priorities. We shouldn't even be thinking about giving more tax breaks for people on the higher incomes who know that overwhelmingly they're doing okay in this pandemic. Asset prices are going up, aren't they?